Sorry, you guys. Time went by so fast. You know how you're trying to get ready? So give me 1 minute. I swear nothing has changed when it comes to my live and my setups. I don't know why it all of a sudden just looks so foggy. But anyway, you guys, let's do it like that. Try not to get, I'm house sitting, so I'm trying to make it so you can't see all the person's personable items in the house. That's one of the things we're going to talk about. All right, I'm going to move locations. Clearly didn't set this up prior to. This is kind of an impromptu thing because I haven't gone live in a long time. And I'm going to tell you how much this annoys me when I'm moving around, when I'm trying to get set up, and I don't get it set up before the clock strikes 12. What's up, you guys? Hey, everybody. Hey, with the monkeys. Hope you all are doing well. It's been a while since I've gone live on YouTube. So first I want to say what's up. I'm Ali. Hey, Shana, one of my consistent support persons, sisters. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, so I wanted to come on and chat with you guys to get this ball rolling once again. Like I said, I am just coming live to chat with you guys specifically about house sitting today. And is this something you should do? Kind of like the truths about it. And I'll give you a little bit of detail. Yes, girl. Hopefully we will run into each other one of these fantastic days out here globe trotting. You know, I would love to meet as many people as possible out here globe trotting. Y'all give me 1 second. Let me grab my coffee. And flip the fan. This is gonna be, when I watch this back, I'm gonna be like, delete. So watch it while you can. This drives me crazy when I watch a video and there's moving, when I'm making a video and I'm constantly moving. But anyway, y'all, I wanted to come on and chat with you guys because I am doing a house sit, and I am doing a house sit internationally. And this is my first official house sit on the Trusted Housesitter site. And I landed one in another country. So I kind of want to give you guys like some of the ins and outs, and then some of the things that I have personally experienced or recognize or understand as part of, you know, trying to do this in collaboration with continuing my journey out here in the world. Because truth be told, I have really, unless there's something specific, I really don't have a desire to be in the United States. And it's for a plethora of reasons. There's not just one reason why I choose to not be in the States. It's culmination. List it, say it, it's probably the reason. But one of the main ones is there's a great big world out here, and Y'all hear me say it all the time. We have an opportunity to experience the world. And while I had been out here traipsing around, doing my thing, all of that beforehand, before I went on this journey long term, i.e., slow manning full time, before I did this, I was already traveling a lot. I knew travel was in my blood, like it is my cosign name. And you know, once I finally took the official leap to depart from corporate America and, in the traditional sense, and consider this as an option, you know, I was just living life, but feeling void, but not in the sense of, um, I, I don't want to make this a psychological conversation because it could turn into one. But it plays into that. This is one of those conversations while we'll be talking about trusted house sitters. It's also talking about making, there's my house sit guest. she, she is like a child. She is like a child. She waits until you get on a call or or doing something, and then she starts crying and stuff. Okay. Anyway, the truth about house sitting. The truth. Shonda said, I think about house sitting off and on, but I don't like to live with pets enough to follow through. We're going to talk about that. Now that I've dipped my toe in the travel waters, I have no desire to be here in the U.S. long term either. Girl, and it's something crazy about once you get out here and you kind of discover the truth, right? And it's so interesting because for me, I went through a phase of, as I started traveling more, which really was 2009, but 2014 I would say is when the bug hit and it hasn't stopped, like no gap year, period. Like I've been traveling probably, I hit maybe 5 or 6 places a year before I left corporate America. This is while I was in corporate America, right? And then you get out here and you start to see that the world isn't so bad. It's not as depicted in our illustrious media, circles in the U.S. And then there's a thought around that too, like why? Why did I even think that, any of those things would even be true? That's a whole other thing. So, once you get out here and you realize that living is living, there's some keys to being able to do it successfully. And then you realize how difficult sometimes it actually can be, or systems make it for you to actually just live. Like, why are there borders? Why is there a limitation on where a human can go? Like, why is that? You start thinking that really blue sky kind of thinking, like, why can't I go where I want to go? Why is there a border limit? Why do I have to prove where I'm from? Why, it's really interesting. It's this whole possessive thing all in a nutshell. But before we get to that and trying to figure out how to rewrite the systems that are in place, let's talk about trusted house sitters. So before I got on Trusted Housesitters, y'all, I'm a pet lover. I've been in the pet arena. I've pet sat before. I've pet sat my friends' cats before. We've always had family dogs in the house, so that's always been a staple. I owned doggies before as well. We've always had some sort of animal, and I'm really drawn to pets. But I'm gonna kind of share the truth about loving animals and the idea of house sitting. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to shoot them in the comments section. All right. So, a little housekeeping. Y'all, I'm the eccentric nomad. This is my channel, Where's Ali, where I talk about all things travel and assist you on your own personal journey to get out the house in the car, bus, train, plane, or boat. To start your own personal journey. And I'm doing it by living my life and figuring it out as kind of I go, as well as watching what other people are doing and seeing if those things work for me or if they do not. All right. I have a number of different things out there that I've created along this journey to try to provide some context and relatable information and things that you can kind of go back to and do in your own time, like a travel course. There's my first official travel journal is on Amazon. All that stuff is in my link tree. You'll see it in the comments. It's probably in some of my other videos. I just posted a video on South Korea. I was there for 4 days, 3.5. let's really say 3.5. And then I was in Japan, and I'll be doing a video about Japan, my thoughts, my tips on Japan soon as well. And I recently posted a video about Vietnam and their 90-day e-visa reinstatement update. So those are the things that I've recently posted about. I am about, I think I am country 35. I'm in the early 30s, the low 30s in terms of my country, my unique country count. As I was in Vietnam for the last 4 months, I did a couple of pass-throughs as border runs to Malaysia, Singapore, and then this most recent South Korea and Japan, with a border run literally hop in Laos. I didn't really spend any time in Laos, so I don't count that one. But I do have some stamps, quite a few stamps from a 1 day in Laos. And I have a video on that as well. So if you're in Vietnam and you want to understand the border hopping, even when they reinstate the 90-day, they have not confirmed if you can renew online and stay in the country, if you still have to leave and border hop. So stay tuned for more updates on that. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to kind of share with you as I'm going my hands-on experience with moving about in this great big space, and also trying to dispel some of these, we just have certain fears about things that have been created through fear mongering, and obviously the idea of being somewhere outside of certain entities creates a little angst, and that's a conversation for a Patreon. We won't talk about it here. So you guys, back to the subject at hand. I gotta keep an eye on the cat because she always looks like she's literally about to jump off the railing. We're on the 3rd floor. Shasha, gotta call her every now and again. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna tell you, I think she's kind of like drawn, like I was drawn to her. Her name is Shasha. If y'all know, I have an alias, and my alias is Sasha, which it has been for the last 10 years minimum. Let me think about this. 19 years, yeah, probably even before. So at least 10 years, one of my travel aliases is Sasha. So, kind of just fits that I got a Shasha for my first house sit. So, you guys, I signed up on Trusted Housesitters back in, it's 2023. 2022 is when I signed up for Trusted Housesitters. I believe I signed up on Trusted House Sitters from hearing about it initially from Stephanie Perry. You guys follow her on YouTube. She's got tons and tons of followers. She shares a lot of experience and you know how to kind of go about this life as she has done over the last, I think, 5 to 7 years or something like that. But she had been doing it for a while. And when I was in Acapulco, which was before I became acquainted with Stephanie on Instagram or YouTube or somehow, because I've been getting the emails for like 2 years. I don't know how I first saw her, but in any case, I was in Acapulco, and I ended up meeting this mother and son while I was there, and they were staying in one of those cliff houses, house off a cliff, beautiful mansion type situation, and they weren't paying for it. And she was just sharing this information. We were on a tour doing some snorkeling and, you know, some other stuff. And she was just sharing house swapping. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that was in 2020. That was November. Yeah, that was November of 2020, because 2020 is when this started. The slow matting started, and that started in Mexico, and Acapulco ended up being probably my 8th or 9th city that I visited when I was in Mexico. And what she shared with me is the concept of house swapping, where she has a place in Hawaii, and whoever this person was that owned this cliff house, they were on a site and they swapped houses. The house she and her son were staying in, they stayed in for 10 days at $1,000 a night. That's how much it would normally rent for. So they did not pay $10,000. They also got a BMW because she swapped her house, which was equivalent in Hawaii with this person. I have never been to Hawaii, but I do know it is super expensive in Hawaii, especially to get something even that on that level, right? And so they swapped houses, swapped cars. She explained that process of how they swap, you know, leaving cars at the airport, key code, passcodes, you know, all that kind of stuff, and how, you know, this is how she's able to have these really nice vacations, and instead of spending $10,000 on accommodations, she's now spending maybe $2,000 to $3,000 on excursions and food, and really just enjoying the experience. And I said to myself, self said what? And I was like, oh wow. So I don't know if that was like my first clue in, because I started then researching house swapping, because I remember I went on home swap, I think home swap was one, and some other ones, and just reading up on them, and then of course you started getting other links, and I think that might have been how I saw Trusted House Sitters. But however, I did not sign up on Trusted House Sitters. I've been on Trusted House Sitters only since May-ish of 2022. And I'm going to tell you some of the benefits, even if you don't get a house sit, of being on Trusted House Sitters. So if this is interesting, you guys, stay with me, because we're going to talk about like what my experience is, what the benefits I think are, and just the idea of kind of creating your own yellow brick road, your own journey, your own path through this space. You don't have to do it like everybody else, and you don't have to wait, and why it's actually important not to wait. I'll talk about that right now. So one of the things I think that, especially in the U.S., we have been really conditioned, and probably all over the world, is that we have to, you know, we're put here to do certain tasks. to be effective in the community and in society, whether it's rearing children, where it's being a staple, where it's being, in the political limelight and, creating societal norms for people, whatever. We're there's this expectation that we have to contribute somehow, right? But it never really talks about contributing to ourselves. Everything is this contribution, external contribution, what you're gonna give. It never really talks about the get back. And actually, many of us have been kind of taught that expecting anything in return is pompous, is selfish, is you're not humble enough. Well, first of all, look up the word humility. Yeah, it's not a word I really need to walk around like with it on my face. I mean, you can be that way, and sometimes, but there's balance. Even a monk will fight if it need to. If he need to, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things that I am blessed to have as a part of my DNA is, and I'm a second child. I'm the number 2 kid. So I definitely have that whole FAFO mentality. I definitely have the why do I have to do it like that mentality. And I'm here to say that a lot of times we follow in certain footsteps because we live a lifestyle that follows in those footsteps. So, for example, like people will come on and say, well, it's not that easy. Everybody can't do it. I remember in the beginning, when I first started this journey, I used to have people that would say, Ali, everybody can't do it. Because I would be like, anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. And then I had friends that were like, everybody can't do what you do. And I'm like, well, why not? And I get it to a certain extent. It's because decisions that we've made make it feel like it's almost impossible to do this kind of thing. We got kids, we got jobs, we have debt. We don't know how, this is my big thing, not knowing how to make money on your own, how to hustle without being in some sort of clock in, clock out system. Doesn't mean that clock in, clock out system is wrong, because that is what has afforded me this life, right? But the journey along the way could have been different if my mindset, the way that I look at life and what success is, would have been different, right? So if I would have been reared in a way that literally has options and says that you can have options, you can kind of do it the way that you want and still be formidable in the society, then I think I would have done it 20 years ago. Especially when I meet people out here in their 20s, when I meet people who are in their 50s who have been doing this for 25 years. They've been living abroad, a lot of folks in Hong Kong, but living abroad is just like, it's nature to them. It's natural, right? Whereas from the US, taking a 1-week vacation is nature for us, right? Oh, shoot. I'm not even checking the messages. Let me sign up. Hey, Shasha. So, hi. Come on. Come here. She wants to. Oh, no. Okay. I wish you got, she'll jump. Okay, there she is. You can't see her. But she, hold on, I'll move it a little bit so that you can see her. She does that whining thing until you pet her or let her outside. She's an indoor cat, and so she must stay indoors. Okay, so let me get to my list. Okay, so like I was saying, I didn't consider this lifestyle until more recently. However, I always planned for this lifestyle. It was part of like my plan, even as my son was in high school. Like I had a graduation plan. Like once he graduated, what am I doing? Where am I going? And the plan was to move out of the country for 6 months out of the year. I was already planning on buying property. Didn't know about land in Belize years and years ago. Started off in Costa Rica because all Americans, we won't live in Costa Rica. But once you go and you start looking at that price point, you start looking at what it offers, you're like, okay, for some people it's great, for some people, it depends. And it really depends on what you want, right? But one of the things that I realize is that if you don't have a vision, and this is something I used to say to my brothers and I say to my son all the time, if you don't know what's out there, you don't know to envision it a lot. If you're not already like that explorative person, if you're not a person that's already like, wow, you watch National Geographic, which I loved, and maybe that's what kind of geared me in this, but everybody isn't like that. Everybody doesn't have that kind of energy, and that's perfectly fine because we're not all supposed to be the same. We're not all supposed to be the same. So if we're not all supposed to be the same, why are we all walking in the same footsteps, living the same life? All right, let me go to the comments. I'm sorry, you guys. I know how it is when you get on the roll. You can now pin a message to the top. Okay, so Shana, thank you for all the questions. I do love animals, but I want them to be restricted to specific parts of the house. We're going to talk about that a little bit. That might be something I'll talk about a little bit more on Patreon because cats have ears. I do try to get around. Nice to meet you as well. I do think the concept of house sitting is a wonderful, travel hack, and eventually I'll follow through. Hey Tokyo in the house, what's up? I'm gonna be sharing a video about Tokyo, my little run through Tokyo. That's really awesome. I love that, and I can't read your name because it's in what do you call it? What do you call the symbols? There's actually a word for it. I say symbols. But I love it because I think it's amazing how you read from. I mean, it's like one of the things I think is amazing. Anyway, what is it, Shasha? This is one of the things you do have to do. You do have to stop what you're doing and listen. What is it, Shasha? Yeah. Well, what happened? What happened? Yeah. Well, what is it? Well, what do you want? We're not going back out front because I have to keep an eye on you, and I can't do that right now. You have actual conversation. Well, exactly. Well, we're not going to sit and whine about it. You can go out back. That's open. Characters. Is that what that? I mean, I feel like there's like this word for it, the symbols. I don't know. Maybe I just like over glorified it, but I think it is the coolest thing when you can look at pictures of things. I mean, it's like so I always think hieroglyph, but it's not a hieroglyph, because they read from pictures on the wall too. Back in the day, I always loved reading. That's my first introduction to the world outside of my own. Oh my God, right? So these little things happen. And for whatever reason, you end up on this quest, or you start looking and saying, oh wow, people are doing this. How are they doing this? And I'm so far behind because I made the mistake of allowing myself to be so burned out that if I had started this YouTube content creating journey when I left the US in 2020, I would be so much further along. It took me literally until 2022, the end of 2022, when I left again, um, to say, okay, there's so many people doing this, you can do it too. But it's still a mindset to get into, and I want to talk about that as well, right? And so, is one of the things that is so important. She's sitting on the rail. I just want to make sure she ain't jumping off or nothing. Is what was I saying? She just made me lose my train of thought. I'll come back to it. So as I was talking about being burnout. One of the things that I wish I would have kind of paid attention to is understanding what burnout is, understanding when I was getting burnt out, and understanding, like, even for yourself, what your recovery is from burnout, right? I'm also a person that when people ask, well, what do you do? Or I remember way back in the day, people would be like, oh, when I retire, I'm going to be so bored, I'm going to work forever. And I remember way back then, I was like, why? I've always had the mindset of who the hell wants to work? And what I mean by that, I'm talking about like this idea where you physically always have to be somewhere, or even mentally always have to be online doing something. Y'all, I have worked since I was 12 years old, officially with a check. I used to get a check at 12 years old because it was legal and it wasn't babysitting. I worked in a cornfield at 12 years old for 3 years to pay for school and all kinds of different things, right? So I've always worked. And so 36 years, I'm 51, minus 3, 48. Yeah, 36 years that I've worked. That was my quick math, right? That I have worked in this system. And maybe that is the reason why, I'm over it. So I'm all about figuring out passive income, but I didn't realize that push until I got to this point and walked out. And COVID was a big help for that. I was already on the way out the door because before they shut it down, I had already quit my job of 19 years, being in that industry for 27 years of my 36 years of working. So I was in IT for a very long time. And I didn't realize how impacted I was in the traditional lifestyle, and how much work it takes to reprogram your brain to the things that you say you want. So when I talk about alignment and doing things that are actually in alignment with the life that you say you want to live, it's not that hard. It's not that easy to just turn on and off. Just like anything in life, it's just not that easy to change behavior from something that you're used to doing, right? And so this is one of the reasons why I really, really stress figuring out what you want to do now, what you actually like doing, and removing the idea that you have to do it a certain way in order to be successful. So starting to define your own success. Okay, so Shonda says, I think there's an official word, but I can't remember. Yeah, for the hieroglyphs. Sasha is talking to me. Shasha, I'm sorry. Shasha is talking to me. Not that I want to really be a teacher, but I am willing to pursue teaching abroad as a means to explore the world. Yes, TEFL is another one. We won't talk about my illustrious inability to complete that, and all I had to do is take the test. So that's another thing. Working on your hustle now while you're, I'll just use the word stuck, trying to get unstuck, is the smart thing to do. I think I was saying this earlier. I remember, I was telling my son and my brothers, you have to want something bigger. You have to want something different a lot of times to be, enticed to even explore it, right? And if you don't ever want anything outside of what you're already doing, more times than not, you're not going to pursue. And it's okay. That's why we have a chessboard. The pawns in the front are the ones who are always doing the same thing. They're good. They move. Boom. They got 2 moves. They got 2 moves. They can go to the corner. Man, they got, all right, 3 moves. Diagonal forward to the side, diagonal forward to the side. Whereas the rest of them pieces got some, nooks and crannies. We got L's, we got diagonals, we got multis, we got back forward, we got all kinds of stuff, right? So everybody is not built the same. Everybody is not designed to do the same thing. So everything doesn't work for everyone. But if you're the person that's got that little itch and you're watching this video, because you saw the title that said house sitting. You're like, house sitting, what is that? Let's talk about house sitting. House sitting is staying in someone's home and 9 times out of 10, keeping an eye on their pets, keeping an eye on their house while they are away traveling. It can be from 1 night to 6 months, maybe even longer, depending on the situation. So again, house sitting, so like the example I was giving you of the people I met in Acapulco who were swapping somebody's house, that's like a house sit. Basically, somebody's sitting at their house, watching their house, keeping an eye on it because they don't want to Airbnb or rent it out. Excuse me. Sorry. They don't want to Airbnb or rent it out or anything, but they also don't want it vacant. So it's your house swapping, your house sitting for each other, keeping an eye on each other's homes. Sometimes it includes a little bit more than pets. Sometimes it's keeping plants together during rainy seasons in different places. I'm currently in Thailand, which is rainy season, which means it may rain once a day for about 10-15 minutes. And that's it. It's no different than like being in Florida. So when people talk about rainy season, unless you're like on the low levels and it gets flooded, do your research. It's usually okay. But they may have you watch, take care of the pets, take care of the grounds, depending on where you're staying. I'm in a condo apartment, so nothing for me to take care of. Clean the house, keep things. Shasha, what is it? What is it? You got food, you got water. This is the most that you've been fussy since I've been here. I've been here 5 days, I think, something like that. No. My house didn't start until Sunday, I don't think. So technically, I've only been house sitting like for 3 days. So anyway, you have different responsibilities. And the thing about house sitters, and if you guys want, let me know. Well, I'm going to do this. I think I actually already started. Is I'm going to put a video together, the walkthrough, from my experience, how I set up my profile. Things to look for, what to click on. Right now, you guys can go on Trusted Housesitters. I will put if you go to my link tree or my previous video, you'll find my house sitters link, and I'm going to tell you, if you use someone's link who's already a member, you get 25% off. So please use my link. I'll put it in here. So don't sign up yet. And I'll tell you the benefit of that, even though I didn't get a house sit for a whole year, over a year. Why there's a benefit to sharing your link with people, even if you're not using it, right? So I'll make a video about the process of setting up a profile, some of the things to look for we're going to talk about today, and so that you are in the know about this process, and so that you're more successful with what you want. Because the last thing that you want to do is be in Shasha, get down. Shasha. Yeah, I'm talking to you. The last thing is you want to do is, be in a situation where you feel like you don't have control or you're not making the decisions for yourself. And so be mindful of what your limitations are, what you want to do. And Shanna, you literally spelled it out like, I don't know that I want to house sit for other people's pets. And if you're not a pet lover, if you're not, then strongly consider maybe house swapping, or there are multiple sites out there. Trusted Housesitters is the one that I feel most comfortable. I've looked at other pet sitting, house sitting sites, and they just don't get as much they don't get as much activity maybe that's the word. They don't get as much activity as Trusted House Sitters does, and so there's just more movement. Which, and I like the setup. Things that we'll talk about, like that you need to be aware of. But it's important for you to know what your limitations are. Don't just do it because you think you're going to get free accommodations. And so that's what house sitting is. You're staying in someone else's house. You're not paying for it. Trusted House Sitters is against anybody charging you for anything to stay. So if you end up in one and somebody's like, hey, could you pay some money or something? Now, if you break something, yeah. But, somebody asking you to pay for electricity or something like that, unless it's spelled out, like there is an expectation that you're going to come in and treat this home like your own, and there's also this level of how do you treat your house like I would treat my house. So there's maybe some extensive pre-work to getting a house sit. And so that's what it is. It's ultimately house sitting, getting free accommodations to keep an eye on someone's house and other responsibilities that they will list out, as well as their pets. Now, some of the house sits may not even have pets. And there's multiple ways to do this. Like I said, before I actually got on Trusted House Sitters, I was house sitting. So last year, most recent going backwards, this is my first official house sit on Trusted House Sitters. And I've been in houses with pets. So in January, I was doing a work exchange that I signed up for, and it just happens to be that house also, there she is, that house also had a dog and 8 cats. I didn't know that, but that was one of the things. Now, they weren't, we still had to kind of watch them because there were 4 babies. And so, that was a month, a little less than a month that I was there. Prior to that, I dog sat one of my good friends' dogs, especially when she was out of town, and it worked out perfectly when I was still in Dallas. When I was in Dallas, and so when she had to take jobs out of the city or out of the state, and I was in town, I could pet sit, and Charlie's my little friend, and we would have a lot of fun and things like that. But when you pet sit a dog, it's different than pet sitting a cat. So you have to know the difference. Some people have birds, some people have lizards, some people have horses. I just saw one that would be really cool, but they do. You need to know a little bit about equestrian shit. You need to know how to take care of a horse, right? And that's all part of this journey, learning how to, whether or not this works for you. So I did that in Dallas, and then when I was in Kenya, there were 2 dogs and a cat. I didn't need to necessarily take care of any of them, but I had to be mindful of the cat because the cat was in the house. The dogs were guard dogs, but they were, friendly guard dogs. At least I made them friendly because I love animals, and so I would always go and speak to them and pet them and give them treats and stuff like that. And then there was monkeys all around, and then I had some camels. And when I was in Thailand last year, there was a horse that I would walk by. What's his name? Alexander. He had like a real name, like Sebastian or something like that. And he was super cool. But anyway, I would walk through the alley to the main street, and he would always be there giving carrots and stuff like that. It's a really cool horse. So I have this thing with animals. So if you already know that you're like a person like, oh my God, or you know that you're a person who doesn't necessarily want to be dictated by a schedule, then be mindful of house sitting with pets. Okay, so let's go through the list. Her meowing is so adorable. Let me just tell you, sometimes it is, sometimes it ain't. One of the things that we're going to talk about. So one of the things that you'll learn, if you have children or if you have pets, they're like one and the same, right? So you notice that she started meowing, and it's because she can hear me speaking, and because I'm sitting here. So what now? She wants attention because I am sitting in a spot where she's like, oh, okay, you're sitting here, so you can pet me. Normally, if I'm working, she comes and sits on my laptop, like right as I'm working on it, because in her mind, that's my time, right? And so you got to be mindful of those things because you can't necessarily change the behavior of an animal in a house sit. You have to a certain extent, adjust to what they're used to, and so people can spoil animals the same as they spoil children. Okay, so let's get to this list. All right, life is difficult and cruel. How can it be easier? What do you think of it? What do I think of what? House sitting or life being cruel? It's my Tokyo friend. Please elaborate on what you're asking me about. All right, so I'm going to go down the list of things to check for. So I'm going to give you the video on how to sign up and set up your profile and all of that. You can I'll create that, and so check back, click that notification bell, subscribe to my channel, y'all, leave me some comments, and you'll get a notification when I post that video, okay? Once you actually have your profile set up, you have been approved, because you have to be accepted. You do have to go through a background check and all of those kinds of things. You do have to leave your social security number, that kind of stuff, you guys. So if you're sitting and going, I don't want to put down trusted, keep in mind, one thing I want to say that is extremely important, keep in mind you are staying in someone's house with all of their things. So I'm going to tell you one major difference between this, renting an apartment somewhere else, or Airbnb or anything of that nature. The difference is, so that's her Henri. Like, she didn't do that gracefully at all. So she's basically out. She is a hot mess. Oh my goodness. That's her way of pouting. Because she's very, they're angelic to a certain extent. She could jump up like 10 feet and land like this. She didn't have to make all that noise coming out this couch. So anyway, it's so different being in a house sit versus like an Airbnb. An Airbnb is set up for guests to come. So there's no personable items, like you won't see pictures and people's computers and work, their things are here. You're literally living in their space, and that's something that you have to understand and be okay with. So when I first got to this particular house sit, I stayed in the apartment next door because I came a couple of days early. That's one of my tips, is to arrive if it's in a different city, state, because you can use this tool to move around within the United States and visit different states, or use it as going abroad. I always suggest don't arrive on the day of, because that's complicated. There's always going to be something that could arise, pop up, and you don't want to put your host in jeopardy of missing whatever it is that they hired or selected you for the house sit for, or you missing out or something like that, right? So I arrived a couple days early, and my particular host paid for me. I was going to stay somewhere else and then come over. She paid for me to stay one night here because I was only, she paid for the night before, and I paid for one night because I ended up coming 2 days early. So that was something nice. Everybody does something different. That's why it's so important when you're in this process is to read and ask questions. So after you apply or after you have your profile set up, you'll go in, and I'll talk about this in the video and show you how you can set your parameters. You basically can show all the places that you're willing to sit in. I pretty much left it completely open. I show that I am based in Dallas, but my profile states right in the beginning that I am a traveler. It shows my age, and then some pictures of me, throughout my travels, as well as with my furry friends, right? And so when you set up your profile and what access, like, people can reach out to you, or you can apply for sit. So once you apply for a sit, these are some of the tips that I will share. Let me go back one before you start applying, or before you actually get an interview. One of the fallacies is, I think, we have this belief that it is like an Airbnb, that I'm going to go on this site and bam, there's always something available. There's in any place that I want, and that is 100% not true. So this is one of the truths about house sitting. It's not always going to be available, and they're not going to have certain places or the terms that you're looking for or the dates that you're looking for. One of the things that I found to be 100% accurate is there's clusters. And if you're not a member of Trusted Housesitters, you can actually go on there and view it. I don't know that you have complete access of everything in terms of being able to see all the available house sits, because there's 3 levels, and then there's also just a level to just go and browse. I feel like I'm in the middle level. I still don't get to see everything. I don't think I get top tier level. I think it says you do, but I feel like I don't, because I've seen people on house sits that I've never seen, right? And I will look in particular places, like I was in certain countries and people are getting house sits in those countries and those never popped up. So, and I'm not at the highest tier, I'm at the middle level. So some things, they go to, like they reach out to different individuals. So if they have a particular person that they like using or something like that, they may directly invite them or something like that, and I've had that happen. So in any case, okay, the United States, the UK, other parts of Europe, specifically Germany and Australia, are your hottest areas for trusted house sitters. So you can literally live in the United States if you are, and this is why getting your side hustle income on and set up is so important, because you could be moving around the United States. If you have like a remote job that allows you to live anywhere, you could be on a trusted house sitters, just living in multiple places. I know people who do that to this day, and they allow the house sit approvals to dictate where they're going to go next. Key thing, Trusted Housesitters has, like I said before, 1-day house sits all the way up to, like, you can go from, I think it goes up to 6 months or something like that that you can select. I like the longer house sits, minimum 2 weeks. That's my preference, is a minimum of 2 weeks, depending on the situation, especially if I have to travel there. I will not travel to a place specifically for a house sit unless I am going to be there already. I was already going to the place that I've had on my list, and it's like a starter, like a 3, but it has to at least be 3 days. Even if I'm in the States, if I'm in Dallas, like I wouldn't necessarily do like a 1-day sit unless I'm trying to establish my portfolio, get my profile amped up so that I become more visible to other available house sits, right? And you get your referrals, and so that's one of the big things is referrals. So I had 3 referrals before I did any house sits, because I've been house sitting, because I've been around animals, and so I had someone in Kenya leave me a house sit review, my friend from the US, and then another personal house sit review. Okay. And so all those referrals are really critical in kind of locking down a particular house sit. All right, hold on, let me go. I see messages popping up, but I can't read them that far because they pop up and go away. No, I can't see the chat. Okay, there we go. People have definitely spoiled there. Yes, that was a very nice of your host. It was. I would prefer minimum 2 weeks too. Yeah, so that's kind of what I look at. At first, I was only doing a month. So I had saved searches in countries that I knew I wanted to go to. And what happens is when you create these searches, you get notified when something matches your search requirement, right? And so then you can kind of look through and see, is there anything of interest? So you'll get pictures of the house, pictures of the animals, and then the critical thing that you'll get is, for me, I first look at the first thing I look at right out of the gate to even see if I'm even interested is I look at the pictures of the house. Like, is it somewhere I want to live? Then I go immediately to responsibilities. If I open it and the responsibilities is like pages and pages and pages, that deters me a little bit, because that means that the guidelines and the rules are maybe a little too intense for what I want to do right now. Like, if I need freedom to move about and stuff like that, like, I don't necessarily, I may not want to be in a place that says, hey, at a certain time of the day, you have to do certain things, because that could be problematic if you are exploring or you have other work things or to do, and you're now stuck where, okay, 6 to 8 you have to do this, and it's a 30-minute thing that you have to do, and then you have to take this at 11 and do, there's an expectation of doing these things, and then at 5 to 6, and then please be in by 10 p.m. Be mindful. It is critical to read what the owner host requires as responsibilities. Don't just accept something because you look at it, you're like, oh, they got a pool, oh, this is dope, oh yeah, I want to stay there, because it's not about, it's your accommodation, your free accommodation is secondary to the responsibilities for that house sit, which is typically taking care of the animal and taking care of that home. The free house sit that's an extra, that's like a bonus, right? And so you can't go into it with, ooh, it looks nice, ooh, there's a swimming pool, ooh, there's a huge yard, ooh, they're leaving me their car, ooh, those kinds of things, without paying attention to whether or not it actually fits the lifestyle that you currently live or want to live. So those are the first things I do, is look to see the house itself. I'm not big on, there's certain things that are trigger things for me, and so, you do or do not want to deal with them, or, if there's not enough windows in a place, something like that. Like, if I know if I wouldn't rent it, sometimes it's like, if it's a short 2 or 3 day thing, if you're into doing those, you're passing through. Like, I would have done a 3-day in Korea, I would have done a 3-day in Japan, because I was passing through, and those places are expensive accommodations. So if I could have gotten a house in either of those, that would have been great, but it would have also limited potentially my exploring, because if you're only somewhere for 3 days, you're typically there to tour and explore, and so you have to really consider the fact that you may not be available for what that host really needs for you to do. So be honest with yourself, be honest with what the host is requesting. So I look at the house, I look at the responsibilities. One of the other things that dictates whether or not I select a house or a pet sit is if the pet requires medical medicines, if there are any ailments and things like that that you need to be aware of. I am a real stickler about it, because I don't want anything to happen on my watch, so I tend to stay clear of those types of things, and that's just my personal preference. Some people are okay administering meds and things like that, and for me, I look at the duration of the house sit. I'm just getting to know the animal, and now I'm administering meds to that animal, that are a requirement for them to live, or something like that. And so those are things that I personally try to steer clear of, when I'm looking at whether or not, it's a viable house sit. I also look at location. How close is it? If you're not being gifted a motorcycle, like a moped or something like that, or even a car, because some of them offer cars, or they'll tell you that you need a vehicle. You need to know if you're in a walkable area. Are you close and accessible to necessities? Can you go grocery shop? Is it Are you way up in the mountaintop and you can't, and they don't have ride share or taxis? How you gonna get down? So you gotta think about these things, right? You can't just arbitrarily just accept, oh man, I'm so good, I'm so happy to be free and away. And maybe you can shop and everything if you're doing a 2 week in on the hilltop, and you get all the things that you need so that you don't have to go in town. That's great. Hopefully there won't be any incidentals, right, that you have to consider. So these are just things to think about, right? And a lot of this information will be in the profile for the requested house sit. So you'll see, matter of fact, let me go and pull it up so I can tell you exactly what it looks like. And so understanding what the responsibilities are, location, whether or not you're going to need transportation are key for me. And sometimes I'll swipe right by them. And if I find one that I like, but the date doesn't fit. So let's say, for example, I was in Columbia and there was one house that I did apply for this house sit. And it wasn't in the area that I'd never been to Columbia. So this was like an hour southeast of Medellin. And I was going to be in Medellin. I was in Cali and I was going to be in Medellin. And so I was like, oh, let me apply for it. In my mind, I was like, do you really want this? Like, do you really want to be that far away? And you have, this is kind of your first visit there, and you want to explore a little bit. So being honest, but then I was like, I do want to do some things that are in kind of exclusive, like rural areas. Get the word out, y'all. And so when I looked at what they were asking for, where it was, just being in nature, outside of a city, because I'd been in Cali for a month, it was perfect. So you kind of have to go off of like, where are you? What are you? What do you need in that moment? And you have full autonomy to select what you want, and what works for you. So I'm going to pull up this house that's in Chicago. It's like a 2-day thing, and I'm just going to show you. So it basically shows you feedback from other sitters. So like I said, I look at the pictures first to see if it's, a space that I could manage in and live in for the duration. I look at the responsibilities for the animals, like something like this. So it's like a one-pager. And they're very detailed. And that's what you want. You want someone that is very detailed, kind of explaining their pets. It doesn't always mean like it's a bad thing. If there's a lot of information, you just want to read through. When you see a lot, you want to read through it. When you see very little, you want to ask questions. So those are the two things that I didn't really say: home location, responsibilities, and then feedback from sitters. If I'm really considering it, let me read what other people have said. Let's see if it's a new one. It'll tell you if it's new or not. So there might not be any feedback. And so then you got to look at the host, read their profile, click on their profile, and try to get any information that you can. And then check out the pets. This one happens to be 2 kitty cats. And cats, like I said, are a little bit easier. Hey, Sonia, how are you? What's up, girl? Share my first official Trusted Housesitters house sit, and things to look for. And then they also then list out the amenities, what they're going to, what you're gonna get in the house, apartment, condo, whatever it is, what you have access to, and you kind of go through there. So if there's things that you have to have, you need Wi-Fi. These are questions that you ask. Okay, so we're gonna go to this list, because I got a long list. All right, so I'm gonna now we're gonna get down to the nitty-gritty from the bottom to the top to the bottom. Okay, I'm sorry. Once you started creating your searches and you're getting your notifications and you have applied for a house sit, these are some of the things that I strongly suggest. And like I said, I'm going to create a video about creating your profile and applying, so you can toggle back and forth between these 2 videos to, really see what works for you, and how to set up your searches and all that. I'll do that in a how-to video. Okay, so when you apply and you get an interview, so let's say the person reaches back out to you and says, "Hi, I am," or I'm interested in interviewing. Thank you for showing interest. Yada yada yada. Um, Request a video chat. I um, and this is also something that you can do outside of Trusted House Sitters. Like I said, I have been technically house sitting um, multiple times without realizing it prior to locking down anything on Trusted House Sitters. It took a year for me to get anything, and it took until last December before I even applied for one. And like I said, I have been a member since May. And that's because my route, where I was going, was more important to me than being directed by Trusted House Sitters. And there's nothing, as I was mentioning before, the hot spots, Central and South America, very limited on Trusted House Sitters. That's why I was so surprised when people show how many they were getting in Costa Rica, because they weren't coming up, and I was like, all right, are we using the same website? Because I don't see any of these, right? And then Asia, they're sprinkled, and so they pop up, they're sporadic. And for me, those, because I don't live in these places, a 2 or 3 day house sit is not really good. You'll see maybe one in, or two, a handful in Africa, like South Africa has them, and I think Kenya had a few. But I mean, the dates, it's not a whole year. It's not living with a person and you just come whenever you want. You literally have to match up with the dates, okay? So that's back to that truth, things that you need to know. When people say, oh, I just house it. It's a mindset to house sit and let house sit drive where you go and what you do. But you also need to know where the hot spots are and where you're going to see an influx of house sit options, availability, and it also depends on the time of year, okay? So you don't have to go back to the States. Like, I look and say, if I wanted to stay in the States, I technically could house sit through the United States, but I just don't have a desire to be in the States, period. It's not just a Texas thing. I just really don't want to be there, so I'm bypassing it. All right, so request a video meetup when you get an interview, because sometimes you'll do the interview and you'll be chatting and stuff, and you can get a little bit of vibe from how a person chats, but you also don't get a vibe, a real vibe, unless you see a person face to face. Before I accepted this house sit, I had actually talked to a lady from Housesitting on Facebook, and we had gone through a process. She wasn't on Trusted Housesitters. She just posted in the group she needed a house, someone to house sit here in Thailand, off the coast of Trat on an island. And it was the time that I was coming to Thailand anyway, and I was going to be in Pattaya. So I was like, well, this could not be more perfect, right? And it was for 3 months. Now, of course, you got to worry about the visa situation. That's a whole nother thing. How long can you stay? And sometimes you're not accepted, which I think is part of why I didn't get accepted for my Colombia one, was because I would have been a day over my 90 days. Like, I would have had to leave that day or something like that. So it was one of those things that I think that might have played a big part in it. But this family, they didn't respond back. They just declined me. They didn't say anything. And you're going to get that. I want to make sure you guys don't get your feelings hurt in these situations, and understand it's not personal. Keep on striving and moving on to the next thing. But requesting a video chat is so crucial. So this one that I was going to do for 3 months, we chatted on the phone, we chatted via text and all of that, and then we set up a time, like, for the next day to talk via video chat. She put me on video chat. She walked me through her place, the yard, down the street. The neighbors were driving by on mopeds. She's introduced. She's like, this is all of that. So you get a true feel. So if you are doing or applying for a house sit and you feel like a person is a little bit reserved or not wanting to do the video chats and things like that, ask why. The last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you go somewhere and it's not what you expected, or the person is not what you expect. You can tell a lot about cleanliness when you walk through a person's house, kind of impromptu, how they are with, you asking open-ended questions and really just having a dialogue, and not just like, a job interview kind of situation. Like you're really getting to know a person in a video meetup. Like, it's your opportunity to get to know a person as much as possible, especially if you care about what it is that you're going to be doing, and getting to see the pets in their habitat. For instance, Shasha has, I didn't count, I think 2 of these beds. I counted she has 6 beds. Technically, if I count how many little areas she has on her cat thing, and like the little cushions, you kind of look and say, why are there cushions on the floor? Because that's a bed. Like that's where she has like 8 beds plus the top of the cabinet and the top of this thing that she will sleep on or just lay on. So she got space. She be everywhere, okay? And so you need to know that. Like that might be important for you to know. And she hides in the couch, which is something I found out years ago when I cat sat for my friend. We thought we lost the cat. We thought completely we lost the cat, and we were just like, all right. Okay. My son was home. I was at work. I came in, and the son was like, it wasn't Jade. What was the other one? My friend. She might be on here. I forgot the white cat's name. Jade was the black one. Oh my God, I can't remember. And the white cat was the one that would hide and stuff like that. And then she was really attached to my wall art, my yin and yang. It was really interesting to see. Cats are very majestic animals. Anyway, my son happened to be sitting on our recliner sofa, and all of a sudden she walked out. You know how scary that is? So there's space in between, and all I could think is, oh my God, if my son would have reclined, would he have crushed her? And probably not, because she got in there. So the other day, I was looking for Shasha, and I couldn't find it. And I was like, I know she didn't get out. I learned to lock the screen because she can open the screen. She can open the door. She ain't supposed to be outside unless she's attended to, or you make sure that she can't get all the way down. Yeah, I'm talking about you. I am talking about you. She can open the screen, so you need to latch it. So these are things that you learn as you go. But I was looking for her one day, and I was like, I checked all 8 of her beds, checked underneath the table, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, she was over by the couch, and I looked behind the shelf. She was in the couch, like underneath. And I even sat on the couch and was calling her, and she didn't come out. I had to move the couch, and then she just popped up. Right? So, understanding the personalities and things like that, sometimes you'll see that in a live video. So that's a long way of saying, get on a live chat so that you can see the behavior. I don't know if y'all watch like some of these shows where these animals be acting up and stuff, but I don't think these people would put their pets on a house sitting site. But you just need to be mindful. Like you need to know the behavior of some animals, and also coming a day early, you get introduced, or a week early or whatever, if you already live in the area, coming by and visiting that animal to see how that animal responds to you is really important. You don't want to house sit for like a dog or something, and that dog growls at you, doesn't like there's something about you or something about the dog that you don't feel. Cats are a little bit easier because either they're standoffish or they're real cuddly, you know what I mean? But with a dog, I think you really kind of want to know, like, do we share, are we energy animals together? You know what I'm saying? So it's important. Don't just jump in. And if you have somebody that just kind of is like, well, I'll just take anybody, be mindful of that. I'm just saying little things to be mindful. Request all the rules and the guidelines for the house and the animal before accepting a sit. So sometimes you'll look and you'll go through the responsibilities that are listed on the site. And there may be more, there may be less. Like I said, if you have something where it seems very limited, but as you're going through the house, you can tell that maybe that animal has the run of the house, you may want to, you want to specifically say, let's see, now she's up on top of the cabinet. You want to ask, okay, I read the responsibilities, I see everything that you have listed. Are there any other particulars, anything else, any other guides that you have that I need to be aware of? Because I just want to make sure I know everything before I accept this. Because I'm going to tell you guys, we are figuring out this sabbatical lifestyle, living this life, a lot of times to get out of this rat race of feeling like we don't and can't make decisions for ourselves when we're putting in situations where we are just kind of forced to do things. So you don't want to be doing a house sit or something that you're volunteering, even if you're not paying for it, it's saving you on accommodations when it's going to cause you stress. You get into it and you're like, oh, now you got to give the animal meds, you got to do all these different things that maybe you didn't necessarily really know that you needed to do. Or, there's more animals there than they claimed that there was. There was one site that I was on and the person kept saying like 4, but they only showed 2 in the pictures, but they kept saying 4. And so you can actually message them even before you apply for the house sit to get some clarification on things. So you just want to be mindful of those things and not feel like you cannot ask. This is the time to ask before you physically get somewhere. Request all medication requests or bathing, teething, paw cleaning, all those kinds of things. Know where local pet care centers, like the one I was going to do that was on an island, the closest pet care thing, I would have to take a ferry. This person had 3 dogs, but the dogs were like open area dogs. They didn't come into the house. I think she said they'll come in, but they don't sleep in the house. They sleep outside. She said you literally just put food out, and the house sit was really to maintain the house, to keep the house from getting mold. So, feed the dogs every morning. They're self-sufficient. The gate's always open. They know where to go. They come back. You don't have a problem. And, in this particular, not this one I'm in, but the one I was going to do, the housekeeper lived on the property as well. So you have somebody there that also knows the kind of the runnings and things like that, so you're not alone, right? And so that one was like perfect ideal. The dogs kind of just go, you let them do their thing, you in and out. She had a moped I could use. The island only had 5,000 people on it. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, wow, that would have been great. But it fell through, which is how I ended up at this one. So you also have to allot for if things don't go as planned. Is this somewhere I was already going to be? And if I now have to pay for accommodations because I bought tickets and things like that, can I afford to do it? So back to that little tidbit, back to that happening. If that is to happen, and I'll share this when I do the video on creating your profile, there's different levels to sign up. The highest level, and I think the one I'm on, you have insurance, which covers you if the host backs out. And so Trusted Housesitters will refund you, like your flights and things like that. So you want to be mindful of that kind of stuff, because if you have the lowest tier, insurance is not included. So you, at your own dime, hopefully you're booking refundable tickets, things like that, or you're going anyway. I always say make sure you was going anyway, or it's in at least a country that you were going to go to. All right, you guys, I just saw something. You guys typed something, so let me go to the comments really quick. Our pet owner, Shanna says, are pet owners able to see the reviews you've left previous pet owners from your previous house sit? So for my previous house sits, they weren't on the Trusted Housesitter app, so I actually write about it in my experience. So when there's an area in your profile where you can talk about your experience or why you want to be a house sitter, and there I listed everything that I have done, and you can update your profile anytime you can add to it. So I'm going to add this. I'll also have the review here. But yes, when you click on somebody's picture, it's just like being on Airbnb. You'll actually see their other houses. You'll see what the host said about them, as well as the reviews that they've left. I want a house sit with free-range dogs and a housekeeper too. Listen, it would have been perfect. No joke, it would have been perfect. My friend from Tokyo had to go back working. Thanks, next time. Fantastic. Yeah, you have to go back and tell me what you were asking me about if you ever come back on here. I love it. People from Tokyo. Okay, so ask about additional expenses. And like I said, Trusted House Sitters is one that you're you're not supposed to be paying for anything, but you want to make sure, right? You want to make sure there is no expectation. Like, I knew I was coming a couple of days early. I wasn't expecting her to pay for anything. She messaged me and asked me if I had already secured housing before I came, and we had talked about, dates, and I let her know I was going to come early anyway because I just want to be comfortable and not be rushing. She had an early morning flight. She had to be at the airport at 3 a.m. And so I definitely don't want to be coming in the day of, even though she, I was next door. She left the keys outside for me. Is that comfortable here? She just left the key, and I came over at 6 in the morning. I was right next door, let Shasha out for her normal walk along the balcony and so on and so forth. But we had met 2 days before, so there was comfort there, right? So you want to know, is there anything else I have to pay for? She bought me food to my apartment. She gave me a case of water. I don't know why she brought it all, so excited to bring it all here. She brought me fruit and everything. She made me breakfast the day of. She made videos. She's like, all of this stuff is in the freezer. She cleaned out the fridge and everything. And she was like, you're welcome to eat any of this, the spices, all this stuff. You're welcome to use any of that. And so, be mindful when you're in other people's houses. If you're running AC and stuff, close windows and the doors. With the cat going in and out, I'm not going to run the AC because the cat's walking in and out of the house. So turn the fan on, right? So just being mindful and being courteous to people. But you should know right out the gate, hey, just want to make sure that there is not this assumption that I need to pay for them, okay? Ask about schedules for cleanings and for preferred service companies. So if you're going to be in a place longer than a week, sometimes people have their houses cleaned every week. You want to ask about that because that could be an extra expense. Like, so for me, if I use the cleaning service, I need to pay for that here. I can wash all the sheets and all that. We have coin operated washing machines and stuff. I can do that and get everything clean myself. The house is very easy to clean and maintain, so I don't necessarily need it. She said if you want to have someone clean, she said you can pay them to come in and clean. So you want to find that stuff out and understand, because it may be a requirement. Hey, you need to have housekeeping come in. If it's a requirement, they normally will be paying for it. So know these things. Ask about beddings and towels and how things should be washed. So all this stuff is like, you don't think about it, because in an Airbnb, a lot of times you're not necessarily washing things unless you're staying in it for a month. But even then, it might be a serviced unit where they do the laundry and stuff like that. Like, they are in agreement with the host. So the host, they know how to do the host towels and stuff like that. If you're going to be washing people's things, you want to know what they use, how they do it, so that you don't mess up any of their stuff. Last thing you want to be doing is going by sheet sets, pillowcase sets, towel sets, because you have destroyed all their stuff, okay? And rightfully so. If you destroy it, you should buy it. Replace it. Again, remember, it's not an Airbnb. So I talked about this before. The place will have the owner's things all out as they walked out. So when they walk back in, they're at home. There's tons of pictures of the owner all around the house. So I'm very mindful about my videos and things like that, so that it does not showcase them personally. Because again, this is not a rental. This is not set up for me to rent. I am staying in someone's house. So you want to switch your brain, and know where you're staying. I don't do any videos walking through or anything like that, because the only place that you can see this is on Trusted Housesitters. So this is not open for the public to see all of her belongings and things like that in the house. Be mindful of that. I had already mentioned asking about things in the area. When you have that first Zoom call, you find out preferences, eating habits, different things that you need to, that you want yourself, and finding out what's accessible, and having a host that lives in a place is a great resource. So utilize that resource. And then the last instance is like, know the rules of the house. Like, the number one thing to me that is a rule of the house in places like this, especially Asian countries, is no durian in the house. Excuse me, don't bring no durian in nobody's house. Durian, I think is how they say it. Probably, no. I don't like it anyway. It's very healthy, very good for you, but I just like, it's like papaya times 10, the smell. Can't do it. Dirty feet, like, just anyway. So it leaves a lingering smell. That's why you'll see a lot of places will say no durian allowed, not even durian candy. So just FYI, note to self. Okay. So those are some of the basic things about house sitting. Like tips that I would suggest for if you're signing up for house sitting. Now the question is it for you? Should you be a house sitter? Can you be a house sitter? Based on some of the things that I shared, like, it starts to set the stage of, okay, do I want to go somewhere and be on their schedule, to be on their pet schedule? You got to be mindful of this. If you're going to be dog sitting, you got to take the dog outside. If you're in a house and I've even had some where they're like, just let the dog out in the yard, just go and pick up after them. That's fantastic. Especially if the yard is big. A lot of them that I've read is like, take the dog to the beach. This is what we do every day. Please keep with their routine. They need to be out for 30 minutes and then take them for 2 15-minute walks after that. You need to know this. And when it's like a time schedule, like you got to do it at 4:15 every day. You need to be up at such and such a time. Make sure your feet. Some people are really particular. I even read one where they were like, take them in town with you. There's a lot of pet-friendly restaurants. And if you could be a pet owner and be like, yeah, but I still don't do pets on the counter. I don't do pets in restaurants and stuff like that. Then that house sit is not for you. Don't do it, because there might be an expectation. I've had some where they're like, please, I want pictures every day. And rightfully so. They don't really know you. You're in their personal house with their personal things with their family member. These pets are their family. So my host did not ask me for that, but I send it every day, because even when I was house sitting the cats and my friend's dog, I would send pictures and stuff every day, because I know having pets, number one, you want to make sure they're okay, make sure that they are getting along well, that they're not anxious, there's no anxiety, that they're still eating. All those kinds of things, because there's nothing like coming back and your pet acts completely different, like a kid, right? You've kind of taken them out of what their routine is, and some of the stuff is not it's not always super easy to just jump into. You have to kind of set your mindset around, okay, this is what I need to do. The cat meows when she, number one, wants to be pet all the time. All the time. And that's because I pet her all the time. Because I love animals. I love furry animals, and she's very cuddly. Cats typically aren't very, very cuddly. She's very, very cuddly. She likes to be in your space. She'll sit on your lap. When she wants her little morning tuna snack thing, she'll let you know. She'll get up on the counter and let you know. And you'll be like, oh, that's right. It's tuna snack time. So you need to be mindful if you are if you're truly a pet person, and if you're a person who has a certain schedule, like let's say you work during the day and your main hours that you have client calls is from 9 to 11, but the house sit specifically and explicitly says you have to take the pet out at 10 o'clock, or you need to go and groom the horse and you're like, I can't. Have a conversation with the owner to know whether or not that is a make or break kind of thing. And it may be that, well, that can slide because you are very well experienced. Like, some people want someone who's really experienced. If someone's asking you to administer medicines and things like that, they'll take a person who has experience in caretaking for those particular animals, I think, over someone who doesn't have the experience. So they might be willing to budge a little bit, especially if the house sit is necessary. A lot of times people don't want to put their pets in pet daycares. Sometimes pet daycares are not available in these places. So just remember that you have autonomy to decide yes or no in the end. When you get to a place, if it doesn't match up with the photos, if it doesn't match, that's why video checks are so crucial, because you get like in the moment, you get to see exactly what it's going to be like when you get there. Sometimes the pictures are not accurate. And you just want to be aware of those kinds of things. Know that you can say no. I think Trusted House Sitters has a couple of things, like if they even message you, letting you know how many days until, what to check for. Make sure you do your checklist. Please let us know how things are going. Please send us snapshots of your stay. So I'm going to send some snapshots, because they also want to know, are things up to par? Is this host, following the guidelines set by the platform? And I think that's another reason why a lot of people use Trusted House Sitters as well, is because the platform seems very dedicated in making sure that there is a collaborative exchange, and that it's very reputable, and they're getting the right people in and out. Because the last thing you need is like negative things that kind of derail what it is that you're trying to do, because we're providing a service, and the service is being provided for us. So a couple things I'll just recap on is, is this the right thing for you? The truth about house sitters, trusted house sitters, and remembering that you have full control over saying yes or no, right? So taking ourselves out of our corporate America mindset of, we kind of, a lot of times often have to be in the accepting and, well, this is what they need, so I kind of have to do it. No, this is kind of flipping the script. This is a decision you're making. Try not to put yourself in situations where you don't have a choice, okay? Make sure that it's like setting yourself or being introduced into a new relationship and being afraid to ask a person because you don't want to hurt their feelings. No, you're not even in yet. So remember that you can put it all out there. You don't know these people. They don't know you. So make sure that you're going to get out of it, or that the expectation that you have going in is set and it aligns with what it is that you want to do. House sitters is not always available. Just recapping what I said earlier, house sitters is not always available. It's not always available in the areas that you want to go to. So if you're like, man, I can't wait to get to Central America, I'm going to go to Honduras and do a house sit, they ain't got them. Most likely. I'm going to show you something really quick. I'll pull it up, see if I can show you on the screen. Since this isn't a recording, I can only do a screen video to show you. But since that is not the case, and I am live, I'm going to show you guys the map, okay, the illustrious map, so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, let's see. So all those little green dots on there are house sits. Those are available house sits. Or I should say, they're house sits. They may or may not be looking for a sitter at the moment, but it's just showing you where they are. So this is the United States. I'll just go in a little bit, see if you guys can see those numbers. Can you see the numbers? It's a little foggy. But up in Washington, there's 497. In Texas, there's 264. In Vegas, there's 77. Utah, 261. Utah has 261 house sits. Let's see what Chicago got. Chicago has none. Wisconsin has 205. Florida has 64. South Carolina has 124. Washington, D.C., Maryland has 225. So on and so forth, and then you'll see some up in Canada, right? And so let's say you're just wanting to check something, 516 in California. Boom. You're like, oh, I could come and do I can look and see what's available, and you click on it, and then it'll expand out. So if I click on, I want to go to California, now you can start to see the neighborhoods where they're located. And again, like I said, every dot you see does not mean that host is actually seeking a sitter. It's just showing you who is on Trusted House Sitters, how many available, how many people are registered on Trusted House Sitters. So I can go on this one. Oh, these are all available. Yeah, these are all available coming up here. So and you know, you can select one, and it shows you the house, right? And it shows you what they're looking for, and then you pick the date. But I'll go more into that when I actually create the video. And so that's why it's important to look at the map and see. So like I said, you'll come down, you'll see a few in Mexico, you'll see a few in Central America. It's more than normal. There's something way out here in the ocean. In St. Lucia has one from August 7th through September 1st. That's almost a whole month. When you have a freedom of schedule and you can go anywhere, that is one of the awesome ways to utilize this tool. So that's going to be this, the last part that I'm going to talk about is allowing the tool, the house sit locations to dictate where you go, right? So if you allow it to dictate where you go, you're going to look for where there's a plethora of house sits or whatever. There's 2 in Chile. So if you want to go to South America, that's where you're going to find them, right? You can look to see if they meet your criteria. Oops, sorry, you guys, hold on. See if they meet your criteria. And maybe they do or maybe they don't. And you're just like, okay, there's nothing there right now. I don't want to wait until the last minute to buy a ticket. So now I'm going to come on over to the east side. This is Europe over here. You see all those tons in Germany, a ton in the UK. For example, the UK has 2,173 right really close to London, 418. So they actually have closer to 2,500 house sits. France has 15, Spain has 18, Germany has 40, Austria has 8, Italy has very few. There's a number of people registered for house sits, but not always active, because I've clicked on a few in Italy and I have a few saved, but they're not always looking for a sit. So you might be like, God, I really want to go. This is the time frame I can go, but there's no house sits available. That's the reality. That's the reality. So you can let it guide you. You want to go to Kenya? Check that one out. You want to go to South Africa? Check those out, right? I am over here on my side of the world in Asia. And wow, look at that. There's some sprinkles. I already looked at all of these because I'm already on a house sit. Some of them overlap, so I can't do those. And then there's one that actually the dates work, but the location where it is proximity-wise isn't really what I'm looking for. And so it doesn't work. So if I'm going to stay in this country, I'm most likely going to have to pay for accommodations. That's okay. It's Thailand. You can find pretty inexpensive housing. Okay? So those are some of the key things to determine, is this good for you? So now I'm going to tell you the last thing about the benefit. So I was on the site on the platform for a year. I paid for a year. So the registration is a year in advance. I have the middle tier, which is $169 for a year. This house sit alone covers my cost, covers that 1 year. Now, I am a few months past my year, and the reason that I'm still on Trusted House Sitters and able to apply for house sits is because I use the referral link. So the referral link gives anyone who signs up and uses my link, which I hope you guys will if you're planning on signing up, it gives you 25% off of whichever level you apply for. Now remember, it's not monthly, this is a one-time fee. So you take 25% off for that year. And then That's what you will get. What I will get for each person who uses my link and signs up, and you as well once you sign up, is 2 months free. So I have a membership. My current membership level, I can, if I stay on that level, I have up to 14 more months. So I have until May of next year, because I got the 14 months in. Oh, maybe I have until like June or July. I have to look and see. But I have 14 free months. So I don't have to pay for another year. That's awesome. So I still have access to it. So basically, I got 2 years for 169 minus the 25% off. Okay, you can't technically beat that, right? Especially if you get an opportunity to kind of move around, stay in some places that you may not have stayed in before, some cities that you hadn't burnt on your radar. It's a great option. So share your link, get some free months added onto your membership. If you change membership tier, go down a level, you'll increase the number of months. If you go up a level, it'll decrease the number of free months that you have. Okay, so just know that. Some of the other benefits, if you go up a level, when I first signed on, I got 2 a year. Each year you get two free lounge passes. Again, like the insurance is covered, one-on-one video chatting, but most people like to use WhatsApp anyway. You also have support from Trusted Housesitters. Now the level 3 tier gives you access to more of the lounges. You have more access. I think you can use them anywhere you go, and it's Priority Pass, I believe, is the one that they use, which I did use before, which works out, I think, I can't remember where I used it. I don't even remember what airport it was. But you have some of those things. So check out the benefits that you'll get as part of signing up and being a member on the platform. You get a little bit more than just the accommodations, which is fantastic in and of itself, but you get some add-ons. So with that being said, you have to decide, is this something that you want to do? You can also, I didn't really mention this because I'm going to share this in the other video, you can select what types of animals or that you want to sit, and they have like a whole list. You can select the types of areas and things like that. So every now and again there's some house sitters that don't have pets. You might want to just be a house sitter and not a pet sitter. Of course, that's going to mean that it's going to be far and few in between. But there might be some available. And I've seen people who've done some of those where they just listed their house. They didn't have a pet. They didn't want to rent it out, but they didn't want their house vacant. So things are possible, but also understand that it's not going to be the 10,000 units that are on the site that have that option, okay? The majority of them will have a pet attached to it. So do it if you love pets, okay? And if you're open to adding furry friends to your family, because you will get attached to them. You get attached. I mean, especially if they're fantastic and loving, even if they act like kids and start meowing as soon as you get on calls. You gotta shut yourself outside or whatever. You get attached to them, and so if that's not something that you do well, just be mindful of those types of things. It can be a great experience. For me, it's a great experience. Even though I've only gotten one house sit on this application, it's still really good. I use it as part of my search criteria when I am looking at accommodations. So before I go and I look on Booking and Agoda and Airbnb, I look at Trusted Housesitters to see what's available. And then, Trusted Housesitters may be the reason why I go somewhere. So hopefully this is helpful, you guys. Hopefully the tips are helpful in terms of what to recognize, what to look for, what to accept or not to accept, and just remembering that you have control. The bottom line is we are on this journey. If you're doing this and you're trying to do it long term, it could just be that you want to go and visit somewhere and that you're keeping your job, you ain't trying to quit and all that. That's great. But for those who are wanting to go on this journey long term, this is one of the tools that can assist you in doing that. But just remember, it may not be the platform that covers 365 days. It may be the platform that, I'm here for 2 weeks. I'm going to save easily another 2 weeks. So it actually saved me half of the accommodation what I would pay for a whole month. Okay? So you can look at it from that perspective. It kind of maybe fills the gaps and offloads some of that additional cost that you might have. But it also helps you meet a local or someone. It might be an expat or something like that, but it's someone who lives there. And that's a great resource. That's somebody that can assist you with some things, getting set up, helping you out with things, giving you the lay of the land. So there's more to it than again, the accommodation part, you having somewhere to stay for free. There's other bits and pieces that make it worthwhile for me. One of the things I have kind of gauged, like I said before, is I think I have become more of a click on the pets, on the cat and the lizard and the bunny option, so that I have some autonomy to myself to do the things that I want without feeling like I might be hampering on, a pet schedule, if it's intense. So I've learned those things since I'm raising that pet. So you're coming in to fit into their schedule and their routine. So figure out what works for you guys. I hope this is helpful. It's been a long time since I've gone live. Great chatting with everyone. Let me see if I have any other messages that I have missed. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. And if you are interested in doing the house sitters, wait for my link. I'm gonna share it with you. Do you ever see house sits in Japan? Yes. I went to Japan many years ago, but I don't remember seeing any pets. Japan has cats. They have cats. People don't really have their pets outside in Japan. I think about this because I was in Korea too. In the last 8 days, 12 days, I've been in 4 countries. I don't even remember, but yes, they do have pets there, and they did have some pet sits. Somehow, they have one in Jeju. No, that's Korean. I'll have to look and see. But you can go on the site if you're not on there, and you already know, Chevy, that you can go on the site and look and browse and see if there's anything out there. Do they usually post pictures of the inside of their house? Yes, they do. They do. You can literally see everything. But like I said, sometimes what you want to do is make sure it's not stock photos, like original photos from when they moved in or something like that. You actually want to see, like, do you have your own personal things out? How do you keep your house? So that's why the video chats are really, really important. And you don't know if it's a stock. Like if the house looks like an Airbnb from the photos, but you're going into somebody's house and they live there, you want to see the reality. Okay? Dude, I got a broom. I got a mop somewhere. I see the numbers. They have plenty of sits in Vegas, so I have lots. Yes, you do it. I will definitely use your link. Thank you so much. You're always supportive. I appreciate you. Yes, that's it. I'm going to, like I said, do a video on Japan. I'm going to do the video for signing up the process of creating your profile on Trusted House Sitters to help you guys get started. Um, that'll eventually, I'll put it on YouTube for a short while, but it's going to end up being a part of my travel course. My travel course is on teachable.com. That link is in my link tree as well, and that's only $49, y'all. For my first travel course that's out there, I think I'm going to either add modules to that or just start creating another one where I'm going to add how-to modules for travel. And you can get that information. But for the short term, I'll add the house sit video to my current travel course school that's already out there. Like I said, it's $49, and you can get just information on how to get started. If you're a traveler and you're wanting to move from being a tourist kind of situation into a nomad, that's what my course is going to help you do. So, all right, I don't think there's any other questions. I appreciate you guys so very, very much, and I'll talk to you guys soon. You guys know the drill. Noodles and noodles, peace and hair grease. Turn it off. Bye, guys.